Hello everybody, this is Elisa from Ink Arts and Crafts, and today we are here for a super special video. Today we are going to be doing the Christmas premiere, and I figured, rather than doing my normal, typical video that I always do, I figured I'd bring you guys a Christmas painting. So we're going to go ahead and do a Chinese brush painting. I was kind of torn between, depending on how long it takes me to do this one, and this one should go rather quickly. We'll see. I never know until I get started what it's going to be, but we're going to do some cherry blossoms on this beautiful like red paper, this red gold flecked paper here. It's going to be a longer one. It's going to be a scroll, as you can see. Ooh. So it's going to be fun. I might have to take the Udi off to do this. So this is going to be the paper that I'm using for it, this scroll. I'm doing this one. It's going to be cherry blossoms, and with gold, as it's gold paint as well, is going to be the base of what we do. So that's what we're going to be working on. I did also pull out a couple other scrolls as well. So to kind of see, because it's torn, I was like, well, depending on what the time is and how long it takes, I may potentially do a smaller version of just a more, you are not coming up here, Mochi, get down. Go lay in a basket, you're not coming up here. I may do a smaller painting on this scroll, which is a boring scroll. It's still a pretty scroll. I am not holding you, little cat. I have been fighting with her for the last hour. She wants me to hold her, and I am not holding her. So this is more of a standard scroll with just the plain white paper, but I liked that it had the green background. And then I also, so that's a potential option. I could do something on this scroll here. We'll see what I decide to do as the session rolls on. And then I have these tiny little scrolls as well, which I could not resist. I'm a sucker when it comes to buying paper. I have way too much brush painting paper, but this one is a tiny scroll in gold with the red paper, so I couldn't resist that. I really wanted some green paper on a scroll, which I found, or some like dark blue paper on the scroll, but I found some, and I actually have some of those exact papers that I wanted already in scroll format, but those are in my household goods, which are currently sitting in a storage unit and waiting for me to actually have a house to move into. So that did me no good. So anyways, until I actually so I had to order and buy new scrolls until then, because if you are new to the channel and have not joined me before, welcome. Thank you for watching. I think I'm slated for a middle of the night time slot, which is just crazy. So anyone who is not familiar with Chinese brush painting, it's been around for thousands of years. It's a traditional oriental style of art. I'm going to be doing I'm going to be painting using more of the modern techniques, but I'm going to be painting it on the gold, or on a scroll, as opposed to on regular paper. And usually it uses rice paper, so this is a white rice paper. And there are four main treasures that we have in brush painting. And when I say I'm going to be using more of a modern approach, that factors in, we're going to roll this up a little bit. So that kind of factors in, basically, I'll put that right there. The four treasures of Chinese brush painting is your ink stone, which is what you use to grind the ink, because usually the ink comes on a stick. I use the more modern approach, which is just buying a bottle of black ink, which I am going to pour into my ceramic ink dish, which is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to clean your old ink out. I typically don't, so I end up with, leftover ink that I technically should clean up in between times, but I don't. I periodically will clean out my ink tray, but I don't very often. I clean out my, oh, that was way too much ink, because I poured with my left hand instead of my right. And then this is what I use as my mixing palette. So the four treasures, your ink stone, which is this heavy stone ceramic, well, it's not ceramic, it's this heavy stone that's you use to grind your ink to make with a little bit of water to make your black pasty ink. Your brush, and all of my brushes are a very nice brush. You can't, to get a quality painting, you cannot actually use like, you typically can't use synthetic hair. So this is something that typically these are actual animal fibers or animal hair to make your brushes. And that's what makes the brushes turn out so nice for like the best and the highest quality brushes. So I have some brushes here that are like only $30 for a brush. Some brushes that are higher, that are more expensive. I think the most expensive brush I have was a brush that cost me around $100 for a brush, and it was actually this little brush right here. And that's because it is really, comes to a really nice point. And this is actually, the darker brushes are used for different things. Because you have the different types of hair. You have like what we call sheep's, the white, which is like the sheep hair, and then the black, which is what we call like wolf hair. Or not the black, but like the tan. Mochi just fell on the floor inside of the Udi. So you can see this is what's a combination brush because it has both the white and the tan. And then I think these are just mostly, I primarily use a combo brush, so I have just different sizes. And then these are basically just this, and this is a stiffer brush with the darker feathering, or the darker hair. I use this one to do my writing with. And then this is a this is actually a mountain horse, so that's like horsehair, so it's a little bit of a stiffer, even stiffer than the other one with the hairs on this brush. But that's what that one is. So there's going to be different styles, and this has even like even more like different as well, because you can see it's got the shorter whites and then these bigger bunch of this stiff right in here. I'll use that to make a different style of like bamboo. And then your paper is your fourth treasure. So you've got your ink stone that you use to grind, you have your brushes, and then you have your paper. And those are the four treasures, because without those you can't actually make a painting. So this is as a painting style, this is something that I have been doing since, I need to stand up so I can get an idea, since I'm going to be painting relatively large. So this is something that I've been doing. I started trying to use brush painting as an art form. I started doing this back in 2015, and I've been doing brush painting ever since. 2014, really. End of 2014, early 2015. Oh my goodness. There's a loud train. I apologize. This is like peak train time. And I'm very, very close to train tracks. So if you hear that train, I apologize in advance. So hopefully everybody is geared up for Christmas morning. I may be keeping some people company while they are wrapping presents on Christmas Eve into the wee hours of Christmas morning, or any of our international folks may already be up and at 'em, maybe waiting for the kids to get up and at it and ready to go for the day. We're gonna do a little bit of our, oh, and now I have a plane going overhead. That's so funny. So we went from having a train and now we've got a plane. So we're gonna add some white, some of our see-through white, and we're gonna balance it with a little bit of our bleed-proof white. And then with this, we're gonna do a little tap off the excess there. So I need to get a feel for a placement on here, because we're gonna have a couple groupings of flowers. So this is like our halfway mark. I want a little grouping of flower down here. I can draw that later, but I want a little grouping of flowers, I think, in this area here. I'm gonna do a cluster of 3 flowers. Let's see, the halfway mark. And then I'm gonna put them, because I'm gonna draw the 3 flowers, and then I think then I'll draw the branches behind. So we're gonna go with the 3. There's our halfway. This is so big, I feel like I need to stand up to be able to do this properly, which half the time my master, she does, well, all the time, my master, she does all of her paintings standing. So let's see, there's our halfway mark. So I'm gonna roll that back up so it's out of the way. And so it's essentially the halfway. That one It's just below halfway. So the top of them is on the halfway mark. So now I can, and then we're going to zoom in a little bit on that so I have my reference photo, which is a painting that I did of this. I did a painting of this a couple of years ago. I painted what I'm painting now a couple of years ago, so I'm kind of curious to see how it'll compare to my painting of this that I did before. So I'm just not used to talking and painting, so we will see how it goes. Otherwise, I'll go back and I'll do like a voiceover if I find I'm not enjoying the paint. I'm not doing well with the painting and the talking. So we're gonna go ahead and do our petals. Got one cherry blossom. There we go. There's our first cherry blossom. Getting that first petal and that first stroke down on paper is always the most nerve-wracking, because you're like, what if it doesn't turn out? Because it's amazing how different it looks once you start adding to it and start putting stuff down on paper. But anyways, this will be something different to keep you guys occupied while we, ring in those early morning hours for the holidays, or if you don't even celebrate the holidays, or if you're like me and you're usually awake half the night anyways. This is something to kind of help keep everybody occupied and, keep people company as we bring in the new year, or bring in the not the new year, because we're not into the new year yet, but as we bring into the holiday season. Or you're somebody who doesn't even celebrate Christmas and you just wanted company this evening. This is that time of, or wee hours in the morning, or if you're on the West Coast. It's only midnight over on the West Coast. I'm in East Coast right now. I wish I was still West Coast, because I'm not a fan of this like Eastern Standard Time business. I prefer my Pacific Standard Time to the Eastern Standard Time. It's a whole lot easier to do. I'm not a fan of this East Coast time zone. My preference is the West Coast. But you go where you're told to go. When they tell you to move, you move. So here I am. And now we're gonna come over here to this one. I gotta move that out of the way. There's another plane. This is like prime plane time. So if you guys hear that, I apologize. It's prime plane time, prime train time. You'll probably hear another train or two this evening while I'm diamond painting, or while I'm brush painting. I used to do that all the time. I used to constantly say brush painting instead of diamond painting, or diamond painting instead of brush painting. But I haven't done that in like a solid year. But apparently I'm now doing it again. Okay, we're back at it. So now we're gonna come up and we're gonna do another one up here, a little bit higher. And then we'll add some more petals to it after that. I need a little bit more water on that one. There we go. There, much better. Okay. There's our first petal. And the paper is red enough that the pinks of the paper will kind of seep through with a little bit of like the pink tones will kind of seep through from the red of the paper. So I'm curious, you can let me know in the comments down below if you have ever seen brush painting done before, or if this is your first time. I'm always curious to see, because not a lot of people, unless, it's not something that a lot of people outside of like Asian cultures, or outside of like the art world, and even in the art world, like the Western art world is probably the most familiar, or like doesn't really know much about it, unless you've actually have like an art background and have been trained, but not a lot of people are super familiar with brush painting. So it's kind of one of those things where I learned about it, and it was like, this is it. This is my art style. This is what I can do. I've always done painting of some type, or not painting, but I've always done some type of art. And usually it was drawing and whatnot. But to do, now we're going to kind of come down over here, and we're going to do another one right over here. But to do painting, my mom is an artist, and she always tried to teach me how to paint, and I could just never get the painting. I could draw. I'm a good drawer. You give me something to sketch. I don't like doing people, and I've never enjoyed doing people, but you give me like landscape, you give me inanimate objects, you give me anything else, and I can draw like the crap out of it. But I am not a fan of, like, for me personally to paint in the Western style, like doing watercolors or oils or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea. It's just not something that I enjoy. It's not something that I'm good at. My mom has tried teaching me, and it just never has gone over well. We've got like a little bud coming off of that one, and then we're gonna we'll do our little ones off the tips of those later, but we're gonna do one down right here. But then we're gonna kind of come up, and we're gonna have a few branching off of here. We're gonna come here. So we're gonna start adding to our petals, because there's gonna be some of them that will end up behind. So we kind of got that big bunch right there. The other ones I will do from behind. I'll do the branch in the gold and black, and then I'll do that from behind. We're going to do this one petal here first. Do a petal here. That'll be kind of behind a branch. And we'll do, we could do a little portion that's kind of coming from there. And then we're going to do as if we had a branch coming up. Yeah, we'll do a little cluster of cherry blossoms here. And then depending on the time, if I do another painting, it would be like, if I did another cherry blossom one, it would be more of the traditional black. And then pink cherry blossoms. So you guys can see the difference between this one, where I'm not going to use that same degree of stuff. So we'll see. It just depends on how much time I have to do it. And then I'll fill in those. Do I have any from up here that I need to do behind? I'm going to kind of add a couple that are going to be behind the branches. Good. And then we're going to do one up here, one here. And then as I go, it'll fill in more and it'll look a lot more complete. But that's going to kind of give the idea of the big one. And then I'm going to add the big branches for that, because that's kind of what we need to add right now. Do a little of the gold with a little of the ink. I added way too much ink. The ink is something that, like, a little ink goes a long way. So we're gonna mix some ink with some gold, which gives it kind of like this really interesting look when you mix the ink and the gold together. This is the process. Getting your color mixed just right is the process. If you wonder, that's what I'm doing. I should probably move it so you guys can see. So that's what I'm doing right here. It looks like a mess, but it's not. It's actually an organized chaos, because I'm loading my brush, got ink, and there's a specific way that you have to load your brush. This is one of the things that I love about brush painting. There's a method to the madness. So you soak your brush, you stroke off the excess paint, or the excess water. You tap the body of the brush dry to get any excess off from it, like right there. So you can see how I tapped it dry. Then you dip the tip back into the water to rehydrate just a touch. And then you're going to come in and you're going to get a little bit of the ink, get some of that gold, mix it. And there's going to be gradations in here and then I'm doing it a couple different times, so that way I can get gradations of ink and then gold. And then it'll be mixing them together. So it's going to kind of come out where I'll see a little bit of both as I do this. So yeah, because I don't want it solid, but I also don't want it, I don't want it solid black, but I also don't want it solid gold. I want the gold and the black to kind of like come together as I do this. So now I can come over here, and this is the part where you probably won't, well, I could try to, you're not necessarily going to see, let's see, how far up do you see? So you guys, I'm going to go ahead and, all right. Yeah, this is basically the top there. So we've got to do some different strokes here to end down there. I'll pause when I get down to those guys, because this is a long scroll. So this will give me to that point, and then I'll have to move it up to get that. So we're gonna come right here. And I'm gonna have to rehydrate because this paper is soaking up a lot of the color. So I'm gonna have to do this multiple times. And this is one of the things that gold, oh look, another train, go figure. Like I told you guys, you're gonna hear the trains multiple times. This is prime train time. Because there's a train and an intersection right by me. So it's a combination of both. So now we're gonna come down. This one is gonna go down to here. And I will, let's see, go down to there. So that one, so that's going to be the one big branch that I just did going to there, and then I will continue it from there. So now I'm going to add the second branch behind it, which is the one that's going to come to here. So I do want the extra, this paper. So normally we use what's called unsized paper, which basically means it doesn't have the glues in it, which is what we call sizing. So it's going to, you put water on it, and it's going to create these water, and it's going to do what the paper towel is doing. This is essentially unsized paper. But once you mount the paper, like this paper here is mounted onto the scroll, and that essentially makes this what's called sized. So it's like, it's the glue controls the bleeding. And that's why you see my strokes have stayed where they are, and I'm not having bleeding. If I were to paint on unsized paper, the strokes would bleed like you're seeing there. And that creates a completely different look. But also, when you work on paper like this, where it's already been mounted, you have to use a lot more water than you would if you were painting on something like that that's unsized. So I normally work on unsized paper, so it requires less water. And then when I give to this, it's going to require me to use more water than I would normally. And that's just a difference when you're working on a scroll like this versus working on something that's not a scroll. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to try to make sure my crossing points aren't in the same spot, because I want it to be different. So we've come down to there, so you can see how we've got the branch coming through there. This, I want it to be not quite the same point ideally, but it is what it is. And then we're going to take a point off of here that's going to come off, and then it's going to come up here. And we're going to make some branches from here that are going to go up, and then we're going to have another branch from there that's going to go behind. And then we're going to move this up a little bit. We'll finish up that top part later, but now I need to kind of come down into this portion, and we're going to do one that comes out like right here, and it's going to track down. That is that one. All right, so now I can go ahead and sit down and start to work on adding my branches. So up in the top, let's go ahead and roll this back up a little bit so I can add some branches up top. So you guys can actually see what we're doing. Let me see, where do I need to take it to? All right, right there. All right, so we're gonna work a little bit up into here. And there's gonna be parts where I'm always like my biggest critic of myself. So there's always parts where I'm not a fan of it. And then there's gonna be parts where I'm like, okay, I like that. But before I add more of that, I do need to come over and do some more cherry blossoms. So that's what we're gonna do next. Add some more cherry blossoms to this, because that's actually our next point, is add them up in this top portion. And then we'll add a few scattered kind of here and there. But that's our next thing, because we do need to add some more of those. We don't really need that right now, so we're gonna move it out of my way. And we're gonna add a few more cherry blossoms. Boop. We're gonna add them like right in there. Add our little circles, and then we're gonna make a little baby, some baby cherry blossoms. Droop. And the red and gold are auspicious colors. So that's something that I'm using the red and gold because it's the holidays. So, and they're auspicious colors, and they're also good for, you know, good luck for the holidays. So I figured those would be fitting. And cherry blossoms are a good, like, kind of winter, early, like late winter kind of a thing, even though we're not really officially into winter yet. I figured that'd be good to do. So these are going to be a stream of cherry blossoms that I did there. So that's going to be one of them there. So that's going to branch off of that one. It's going to go up to that. And then we're going to do a couple from here. Need more of the bleed proof. So as you can see, it's kind of a process, and it builds. So we'll have these just kind of build. I'm going to add a little one there. And we're going to add another one right off the tip there. And then I do want to add off of this little guy right here. He's going to have a branch. And then we're going to add one there. They're going to get a little smaller as they go. Alright, so now that I did that, I can come back in, and so this is the one that I was using for that. We can come back in and we can kind of continue on our jupe and continue these guys, and we can do our branches the rest of the way, kind of connecting them out. So that way they're all dually connected. And then they've all got their little hats wherever. And I could also, as I get further out, I could turn that to more black if I wanted. Instead of having it gold, I could have it be just more straight black. Or I could leave it as is. And I'm just leaving it as is. So you can see how some of them I'll go from behind the white. Others I'll just go from here. And then we've got this one. And then occasionally you want to have some other branches coming down, so it's not just the straight blossoms on every single branch, because that just gets boring. And we want to add some interest to it, because otherwise I feel like it needs something. So that's what we're doing here, to add a little bit to it. And then we're going to add some accents elsewhere as well. But that's what we're doing here with these. And yes, you're going to have primarily in these would normally have tons of cherry blossoms all over them, but I wanted to add a little bit of something to those. So now we're going to go ahead and come down, and we're going to add a few more. We're going to focus on our big bulk of the cherry blossoms down here. We need to add a little bit more stem-wise to this. So let me go ahead and come here. You guys are probably like, what? Because I had to put my brush in my mouth for a moment. So where are we at? And then we're going to do a bunch of, we got those. We're going to do a bunch of cherry blossoms again. So that's where we're at. So we need some cherry blossoms up here. Kind of all throughout this area is going to have some extra cherry blossoms. But yeah, this is the part that when you're just doing the repetitiveness, this is a very simple painting, because it's like I don't normally talk while I'm painting. So I decided I needed to do something that was going to be easy to do. And that's why I went with the cherry blossoms, because I really don't have to do much when I do these, because they're basically the same thing over and over and over again. So I went with cherry blossoms because they're simple. And it's very pretty. Doing cherry blossoms is pretty. I enjoy doing the cherry blossoms. So we've got this one. We're going to come from here where we have this little guy. We add some water. I need a little liquid on that one. And then we're going to come up. So I hope everybody's got something planned that they're doing, even if it's just going to, sit and watch movies on the TV because you're not going anywhere or doing anything. I hope you've got something that you're going to do. Or if you're just going to sit and watch these videos because that's your Christmas. That's completely fine. This is going to be one of the first times, I've been pretty fortunate. I've been able to spend a good number of my Christmases since I'm in the military. For anyone that's not aware and isn't a normal watcher of my channel, I am in the military. So I typically move every 2-ish years or so. I tend to move somewhere new. I just recently moved to Florida, from California to Florida. And I'm living in an RV right now until I can find a house here. So I'm like kind of in that pseudo homeless stage. Like I've got my RV house, but like don't have an actual house yet. But it's kind of one of those things where I basically just had a couple suitcases, and that's all I have with me is a couple suitcases of stuff. So all of my stuff is basically waiting for me to have a house that I can actually move into. And until then, I'm just kind of, making do with what little that I have until then. So I'm kind of in that in-between stage of don't really have stuff, but making do with the stuff that I do have. Yeah, so not a lot of stuff that I actually have right now. And it's like out of all of the Christmases over the years since I've been in the military, I've spent less than half of them have actually been with family. The majority of them I've been, deployed or away from family or overseas for, and less than half of them have actually been with my family. I was really fortunate when I was stationed in Hawaii because my brother was also stationed in Hawaii. So we were able to spend most of our Christmases were together for the most part in Hawaii because my brother was also out there. So that was wonderful. And I think that was, for the most part, that was fantastic. So for me, doing it isn't a big deal to not be near family for Christmas because I'm so used to it. It's so normal for me because I've done it for so many years. I've been away from family for the holidays. So I guess I've just kind of acclimated, and it's like, meh, okay. I'm not going to be near my family for the holidays. Okay. I'll call them, and, that's what FaceTime and, Facebook Messenger and things like that are for. That's to call the family and chat with them on the holidays. And that's just, it's because that's what I've gotten so used to doing. You adapt to things like that, versus, it's nice to be near family, but you don't always have that luxury and you don't always have that option, to be near them. So it's like the people that are that don't have the ability to be in your family. Yeah, and sometimes it definitely sucks, but it is what it, like, me personally, I'm always just like, yeah, it is what it is. It, you know, you develop your new family, you make, like, Thanksgiving. This Thanksgiving that just passed was actually the first Thanksgiving in 12 years that I was actually able to do Thanksgiving with my parents. Literally the first time in 12 years that I was able to go have a Thanksgiving at my parents' house. Like, it was so cool to actually be able to go to my parents for Thanksgiving, because that never happens. I haven't been able to do that in my entire Navy career. I have not been able to actually, you know, we haven't had a Thanksgiving together. So it was pretty awesome to be able to actually go do Thanksgiving together with my parents. That was pretty awesome. I had a blast doing that. I loved it. It was like, this is so cool to be able to actually be there for Thanksgiving. But at the same time, it was like, it wasn't it wouldn't have been the end of the world if I hadn't been able to go for Thanksgiving, if you know what I mean. And then, you know, we get, then there'll be other times where, and then, you know, like, then there's Christmas, where I'm so used to not being near my family for Christmas, and then only having like half of the Christmases that I've been able to actually be there for, or less than half. So it's become, like I said, it's kind of become second nature to not have a holiday with the family. All that to being said, that if you're not near your family for the holidays, that's why we have these videos for you guys, so you can have a group of people that you can always jump on and find somebody to chat with. There's always going to be somebody in the chat, even if the creator whose video you're watching, because not all of them can actually be there live in the chat with you for when it premieres, because, you know, depending on what time slot they were given, they can't necessarily all be there to chat with you guys. But then some of them, you know, there's always going to be somebody that can be in the chat to chat with people. So that's something that I think is pretty awesome that's about these videos, because it gives the people that aren't used to being without family, maybe it's their first family, your first family without your loved ones, and that can be very hard for people, because not everybody has that same, like, wherewithal like I have, where it doesn't bother them. Like, it doesn't bother me to be without my family, but it may bother you to be without your family, and that's okay. I'm just that person that, you know, I've learned to adapt and to deal with it. But yeah, that first Christmas without my family, oh yeah, that was definitely a lot harder than, you know, Christmas number 10. It's like I realized as I put my brush in my mouth, because that's what I do when I need to use my hands, that I can't talk with my brush in my mouth. But yeah, Christmas number 1 without the family was totally different than Christmas number 10 without the family. So yeah, those things vary, and it's different, and it's makes a difference how things go. So we're gonna add some. I'm mixing up how this looks compared to how it was on my other painting. So it's gonna look totally different than what it was on the other painting, which is completely fine, because that's definitely not what that looked like on the other painting. But that's why every painting is going to look totally different. All right, so this is our post-editing, or not really post-editing, editing Elisa. So I had to speed up the video in certain areas in order to meet the time limit. So as you can see here, I sped it up a little bit. We're doing the branches, kind of making them down, kind of trying to fit everything in. Give it the picture of kind of what I wanted it to be, and then I decided as I was coming down, I wanted that kind of like almost like the phoenix eye. That's what that like opening is called, where the two branches kind of intersect and leave like almost like that oval area. So I left a phoenix eye in there to give some interest, and then I decided it needed some branches, some smaller branches coming off of it, because it just looked a little bit boring there. I will go back and add some additional smaller cherry blossoms off of it. And then as you see, I kind of go back up into the center to add the connecting dots off of the cherry blossoms to kind of connect them back to the stems because they needed to be grounded a little bit. And then I will go back and add a little bit more into that center area. You can see me kind of referencing where that center area that I keep pointing to needs a little bit more. It needs to be a little bit fuller. So that's going to be one of the next things that I go back and tackle. So I think so that's what I'm about to add some more white to, so I can go back up in there and work in that area. But I decided I needed the little small dots at the tips of everywhere that I had just worked to kind of add like the little tiny buds, those fresh buds, to complete everything. So that's what I'm adding here now, as you can see here. So anyways, hopefully I'm not just rambling aimlessly and boring everybody to tears. But I found last year that like the best part about the premieres was actually being in the chatting with everybody. I found that to be the like my favorite part, more so than, you know, being then like, yeah, it's enjoyable to watch, but I found that it was like even more enjoyable to just be in the chat with everybody, that real time kind of like communication of everything. That was the part that I loved the most about like watching the premieres last year and being in the premieres last year. I loved just chatting with everybody. And I'm not going on to like holiday traditions and all of that, because I'm like, we're just gonna chat and do stuff. Talk a little bit about brush painting. You guys can ask me all the questions you want about brush painting in the chat, and I will have answered all of that. And we're gonna do the last thing I'll do once I finish all of this. I will sign this for you guys. So now that we've filled in some of this, let's go see what we need to add for the white stuff up top, and then I can start adding the black accents. So where are we on those guys? Actually, yeah, I do need to add some little white dots on here where I added all my little tips. They need a little bit more white. I just needed to accent those a little bit more. And especially all these little ones that I added down here. Needs all these little accents. All right, just some little accents there. And then we're gonna add a couple, like, do you want any of the body? No. All right, so next up we need to add our, basically our moss dots. So essentially in brush painting, there's another plane. So essentially in brush painting, whenever you have a large area of like the branches like this, you have to have moss dots on like trunks and stems. So the moss dots are always, like in this case, the moss dots are going to be a solid black. So we don't want it to bleed. So we're going to come in back, starting up at the top, and we are going to add our moss dots. But we want to add them. And these, you just kind of find a spot and you go black, black. Couple together, couple apart. And you just add them wherever you feel like needs it, as these big black dots. Adding them like there, I'm going to add it to mix it up so it doesn't look like they're right on top of each other. You can add them kind of throughout, and then you're going to add them a little bit on some of those, but not as much. The gold is super powerful, so I need to kind of break it up a little bit. As you can see, we're kind of adding them periodically to get that accent throughout. These are our moss dots. And you can see how those moss dots, those black dots that I'm adding, are adding another layer of interest to our painting. It's kind of like a depth. It's like if you're using special drills with a diamond painting where you add like crystals to add like shadows. This adds a layer of that depth or the shadow to our diamond painting, and it gives it a whole another level. Whereas without it, you'd have some areas that would be a little bit boring. So that's why we add our little spots. And you just pick your areas and you say, okay, what looks like it wants it there. And you try to add a little variety and kind of spruce it up a little bit. And then the other thing that we need to do, let's see, we still need to fill in our cherry blossoms into the centers. And then we also need to fill in, which we're going to use a red for that, which I need to, yes, I need to hydrate my red. So while that is hydrating, or melting, I guess you could say, you're melting the glue is really what you're doing. So while that's doing that, I need to come in and do basically the calyxes and all of these little white things. I have to add a calyx on every one of these little white things, which is going to be done with the black, which will add more shadow as well. But this is going to be a tedious part. You can't see what I'm doing as I'm on this bottom part. But as I come up, you guys will see what I'm doing. The calyx is another level of shadowing, which kind of anchors our cherry blossoms down. And it has to be done on every cherry blossom. Give it a couple little calyxes. Every cherry blossom. So you kind of have to decide where the anchor point is for your cherry blossom. And that one I did 2 sets because that one had was actually 2 blossoms. So you have like the 2, so this is basically 2 splashes for each one of these little cherry blossoms. And you have to say, okay, which way is it going? That one I kind of did the wrong way, but oh well. And you kind of anchor them into place. And this is what we're doing. So this is the detailed work that you do to really kind of tie your painting together, because without it, it just looks unfinished. And this is what gives us that completed, finished look of a painting. And it's the small details like this that I think really bring something together at the end. So that's what we're working on. And it takes time to do this portion of it. And this is a fast painting to do too, because there's many a painting that I've done where, you know, they take a whole lot longer than this to do. Now this one is a quick one. It's one that's not taking me a lot of time to do, really. I've had some that take me hours depending on what I'm doing. And if I'm doing a gongbi style, which is a fine line style, that type of painting, oh my goodness, that style can take absolutely hours. This is not gongbi style. This is like a relaxed or freestyle. So it takes nowhere near the same amount of time to do this style. So as you can see, we're making progress on our little white dots, getting our calyxes in there. I could have added the burgundy that I'm going to do for my stamen lines. I could have added that deep red to these, but I decided to just go with straight black for these. So we're making progress. We're getting there. But anyways, it's a whole ordeal. I know I had promised, I was like, oh yeah, I'll do the occasional brush painting video for everybody on the channel. And have I done that really at all? No, I have not. I'm a slacker. I know. So you guys are finally getting another brush painting video. that I've been owing you guys for ages and ages and ages. It's finally happening. You're getting a brush painting video. It just took like another year for me to actually do one. So here it is. Here's your brush painting video. You can watch me in action with a brush painting video. I should really just record me doing one of my classes. I take classes with my master on Saturday. I should just record me doing a class on Saturday and then like cut out some stuff and do it as like a time lapse. You guys could see me actually painting. That would be kind of an interesting one. Do a little time lapse of it. We could do that. I might actually do that one of these days. So then you guys could see me painting in action. Yeah, maybe that's something to do one of these days when I'm bored or something like that. Or I'm like, I need something to throw up for content. Which, no, I usually don't have an issue with that. I've been really slacking this week, though, on filming anything besides my advent calendars. I've been doing all advent calendars. All right, so we have all of those. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna come in and do our center calyxes of these guys. So we don't have to do very many of them. So we're gonna do this with kind of this, a light color here. We want it to be kind of watery right there. And we want to do that there. So we're gonna swipe that across here, there. We're gonna swipe it across there, swipe it across there, swipe it across, swipe it across, and swipe it across. That way it's not just on like a solid background, but I don't want that. So now that we've done that, we're gonna go grab our other brush. Oh, I should clean my gold brush. So I don't have the gold paint does stick around quite a bit, so you kind of have to clean it quickly. Now I can grab this brush and we are gonna go with our white. We're down into the wire, you guys, down to the wire. And I'm not going to talk for this part. I'm going to speed it up so that way we can fit it all in. So now we are back to another editing Elisa moment. So here I'm editing the pistil and stamens to each of the actual set primary flowers for this section here. This is another one that I had to really speed up because I actually like literally did not talk as I was doing this. And that's mostly because when I'm working on these tiny little detail aspects where I have to have a very light perfect stroke, otherwise I screw it up, I had to focus. So that's why I like legit did not talk at all during this section. And I was like, well, guess I need to actually do a voiceover, but I knew I was gonna have to do some voiceovers for this video anyways. So I did the fine line with my it's a landscape brush, but I use it as my primary calligraphy brush because it just works so much better for me with calligraphy. It's comfortable in my hand for my calligraphy work. And then my details like this. And then I went in with a dark red rouge color to add the, basically the pollen dots, the stamen, the detailing of that to it to give that final detailing work. And then from there, I think we're going to be ready to start into the calligraphy next. That's going to be the next point, is doing my calligraphy work. So once I have the painting finished, which it is, I then come over and as you guys can see, I know my, this is our painting right here. I have a lot of space not filled in along the right side. Normally I like to do my signature and everything down there, but I'm like looking at this and I'm feeling it along. I'm like, do I want to do it on the bottom left or top right? And I feel like it kind of needs it to balance it. It kind of needs it on the top right, I'm thinking. So we're actually going to do our writing up there today. Normally we do, that's where I feel like this one actually needs it. So I went in and I did a translation. Mochi, no, we are not coming up here. No, get down. You are not coming up here. It is not happening, girlfriend. So we are going to put this right here to hold that in place. Usually I use my phone for this, but I'm filming with my phone, so I can't. So I apologize for the glare you're going to see on the iPad, because I like to have this close to me. So I go into usually Translate, Google Translate or something like that, to translate into Mandarin. And then from there, once I have it translated into Mandarin, Mochi, go away. You cannot be up here when I paint. You know the drill. You can be on here any other time. Get down. Thank you. She's like, Mom, I want to help. So normally the girls lay in their baskets right over there while I'm painting, but Mochi is like, no, you will hold me. And I'm like, I can't hold you. I'm painting. And then once I've got it translated, then I put it into a website that I have that will put it into calligraphy. So then I can just copy the calligraphy over. I swear, this is the final time you guys will hear from editing Elisa. But anyways, now I kind of told you guys a little bit of the process in the last little segment there of getting the calligraphy, and now I'm actually writing my calligraphy. So this is at 2x speed for this section. We're looking at double speed for my writing and my calligraphy. I try to do my brush strokes the proper way. Sometimes I don't get them the proper way, because I am not trained in calligraphy. I'm like sort of trained. I have a little bit of calligraphy training, but not all of the characters. So some of the characters I have been properly trained in calligraphy by one of my masters. I have 2 masters that I've learned from. So you'll see that some of them I'm much more confident in the symbols and the characters, and other ones I'm not. So my calligraphy strokes are not nearly as strong. But these 6 characters that you see here are the characters for Best Wishes, basically, is what those 6 characters translate into, is basically Best Wishes. So that's what I wrote for those first 6 characters there, is because I wanted it to be, normally I would do something kind of almost like a little mini poem is what I would normally write for my calligraphy. But this one I wanted to be holiday related, so I went with Best Wishes. And now the next 3 characters that I write is going to be my signature, my Chinese signature that I created, which is Ming and Dian, which is basically Ming kind of being close to Mink, and then Dian being for Grace, because that was always my nickname growing up. And now I'm going to put my seal on there, which is, I actually carved the seal myself, but that's how you officially finish your painting, is you have a seal or a stamp. And then the last thing that we did, once I've sealed it, now it doesn't show up super well with the red, the cinnabar, which is that red paste, doesn't show up super well on the red of this canvas, but you can see it. And should have input right up here. You should be seeing the final painting. I'm showing off the little bit that you see there, but I will have already put up on the side the final painting. And voila, there we are.